Have you ever looked at something and questioned your own senses? Maybe you saw something that made you do a double take, or perhaps you felt like your eyes were playing tricks on you. That's the power of optical illusions. These fascinating visual phenomena can make us see things that aren't really there, or perceive them in ways that defy logic. They're like puzzles for your brain, revealing the fascinating ways our visual system works. When we encounter an optical illusion, our brain tries to make sense of the conflicting information it receives. Optical illusions are images or designs that trick our eyes and brain into seeing something that isn't entirely accurate. They can distort our perception of size, shape, and even motion. They highlight the complex processes happening behind the scenes of our perception. Our brains are constantly working to interpret the world around us, and sometimes they get it wrong. These illusions aren't just for fun. They offer valuable insights into how our brains interpret the world around us. Scientists study them to understand the underlying mechanisms of visual perception. By understanding how illusions work, we can gain a deeper appreciation for the intricate workings of our own minds. They remind us that what we see is not always the full picture, and there's much more going on beneath the surface. Seeing is a complex process that involves more than just our eyes. It is a fascinating journey that begins with light entering our eyes and ends with our brain constructing a meaningful visual experience. Light enters our eyes and hits the retina, a layer of cells at the back of the eye. The retina is composed of millions of photoreceptor cells, known as rods and cones, which are sensitive to light and color. These cells convert light into electrical signals that travel through the optic nerve to the brain. The optic nerve acts as a high-speed data cable, transmitting these signals at incredible speeds. Our brain then processes these signals, interpreting them as shapes, colors, and movements. This interpretation happens in the visual cortex, a specialized area of the brain dedicated to processing visual information. However, our brains don't simply passively receive information from our eyes. They play an active role in constructing our visual reality. Instead, they actively construct our visual experience based on past experiences, expectations, and assumptions. This means that what we see is not always an accurate reflection of the external world, but rather a combination of sensory input and cognitive processing. This process of interpretation is where optical illusions come into play. Optical illusions are fascinating because they reveal the shortcuts and biases our brains use to make sense of the world. They exploit the shortcuts and biases our brains use to make sense of the world. By understanding these illusions, we can gain insight into the complex and dynamic nature of human perception and appreciate the incredible capabilities of our visual system. Optical illusions come in a variety of forms, each targeting different aspects of our visual processing. These illusions are not just tricks or gimmicks. They reveal the complex and fascinating ways our brains interpret the world around us. Some illusions play with our perception of geometry, like the famous Mueller-Lyer illusion. This particular illusion has been studied extensively to understand how our visual system processes spatial information. In this illusion, two lines of equal length appear to be different lengths due to the direction of the arrows at their ends. The line with outward-pointing arrows seems longer, while the line with inward-pointing arrows appears shorter. Our brains, accustomed to interpreting converging lines as depth cues, perceive the line with inward-pointing arrows as shorter. This is because our visual system is wired to interpret certain patterns as indicators of depth and distance. Other illusions manipulate our perception of color and brightness. These types of illusions can be particularly striking, as they challenge our assumptions about how colors and light interact. The checkerboard shadow illusion, for example, tricks us into seeing two squares of the same color as different shades of gray due to the surrounding context. This illusion demonstrates how our brains use contextual information to interpret visual stimuli. Our brains struggle to separate the actual color of the squares from the shadows cast upon them. This difficulty arises because our visual system is designed to interpret shadows as part of the overall scene, rather than as separate elements. Optical illusions are more than just curiosities. They offer valuable insights into the workings of our visual system. By studying these illusions, scientists can better understand how we perceive the world and how our brains process complex visual information. Section 4. The importance of studying illusions. While optical illusions may seem like mere curiosities, they hold significant value for scientists and researchers. By studying how our brains fall prey to these visual tricks, we gain a deeper understanding of the mechanisms underlying human perception. This knowledge has implications for various fields, including psychology, neuroscience, and even art and design. For instance, understanding how our brains perceive depth and motion is crucial for developing realistic virtual reality experiences. Similarly, insights from optical illusions can inform the design of user interfaces, making them more intuitive and user-friendly. Section 5. Beyond Deception, Illusions, and Our Understanding of Reality. Ultimately, optical illusions remind us that our perception of reality is not always accurate. Our brains are constantly constructing a model of the world based on incomplete and sometimes misleading information. By recognizing the limitations of our own senses, we can cultivate a more critical and nuanced view of the world around us. So, the next time you encounter an optical illusion, don't just be amazed by the trickery. Instead, take a moment to appreciate the incredible complexity and adaptability of your own brain. And please subscribe to our channel for more fascinating content on the science of illusions.